it'll leak out eventually, and chances are it's going to be sideways when it happens. It's going to be at someone that you care about because you're going to know unconsciously that you're safe with that person. And it's going to take like murder for them to abandon you. You're not going to save the worst of it for the cashier at the 7-Eleven. It's going to be your parent or your sibling or your best friend or your spouse. It's going to be someone you feel safe with. And so I think that's a really important thing to point out because that's what's going to happen. And you can prevent yourself from hurting somebody you love by doing the work. Eventually, it's going to come out. And like I said, chances are it's not going to be on a stranger.
You ever feel so nervous and on edge that you can't ever settle down? Like your nervous system is just out of whack? Well, stay tuned because today we're going to talk about nervous system regulation and what fight, flight, and freeze truly looks like. Today's guest is Stacy B., an author, journalist, and nervous system evangelist. Today, she's going to share her story on what it's like to live in what she calls functional freeze. We're going to dive into how complex trauma changes our nervous system and what tools we can start to utilize to find peace.
Good morning. Hi, Stacy. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you so much for coming onto our podcast. I'm really excited for our show today.
My pleasure. It's important. It's an important topic.
Yeah, I'm excited. So tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you ended up in this kind of passion of yours to help others.
Well, I think I've always been like that in terms of wanting to share what I've learned on my journey. I was just joking with a friend that I came out of the womb as a seeker. So I'm always looking for ways to be better, ways to evolve, and had been dealing with a new level of developmental trauma about 5 years ago. And, my history is I started therapy in 1993, back when complex PTSD was barely a blip, in anyone's. I mean, it's still not in the DSM. That's a different conversation. But, it really wasn't a well known diagnosis at that point. I've had probably 5 therapists over the course of my life, and not one of them has ever mentioned the effects on the body of trauma, the effects on the nervous system because of that trauma. Not necessarily because of that 1 or 5 or 10 or how many incidences it is, but because of the patterns that it ends up creating that you end up perpetrating for the rest of your life without recognizing it unless you're willing to do the work to see that. And so by the time I came to this modality, my nervous system, I mean, I have been in functional freeze for probably 2 decades. And that's not even an exaggeration because I'm going to be 61 next month. So, going back to 1993 when I was 30, I mean, seriously, it's 30 years of just replicating those patterns and being in survival mode, quite honestly, for all of that time. And so, the granddaddy is Bessel van der Kolk's The Body Keeps the Score, which, if you're on any kind of a healing journey, there's a good chance you've heard of that book. But there were predecessors to van der Kolk, one being Peter Levine, who really is the granddaddy of equating trauma and physical impact in human beings. And part of what he did was he studied animals. And he realized that when they had when an elephant had an encounter with a hyena, it was freaked out during the encounter, but then it would go off and it would shake. And he realized that that was the elephant shaking off that experience, shaking off that trauma. I mean, he went to Africa and studied these animals, which I find fascinating. And animals don't have human brains, right? They can't logic and reason, and they're pretty much going on primal instinct. That's a disadvantage in healing trauma. Quite honestly, it can be an impediment. At least it has been for me, because my brain wants to figure out why, and it wants to figure out how to fix it instead of leaning into the discomfort and letting nature take over the way the elephant did. I read van der Kolk's book. I read some of Peter Levine's stuff. And then somehow, I don't know how it happened, I got connected with Stephen Porges's work. and he was he is a medical doctor, as a doctor, and was working in the NICU, trying to work with infants. And how is that not traumatic? I mean, let's just take a second to talk about that. Okay.
Right.
Here you are, you're in this warm, fuzzy place, everything, you're just floating, everything's lovely. Then, boom, you come into this world with bright lights and a different temperature and everything else. And then because something's not 100%, you're put into the NICU. So the only thing you've ever had contact and connection with is now gone.
Mm.
How is that not traumatic? And so that's what he studied, which has led him to develop polyvagal theory, which is, there are some scientists who push back on it. But my take on that is just because you can't prove something doesn't mean it's not true. And I joke all the time that it's awesome when science catches up to the truth.
Wow. Yeah.
Because sometimes, and this is kind of it's parallel related, so I'm going to share it because I personally think it's fascinating. I was writing an article and the term epigenetics came up, and I wasn't 100% certain what that is. So, I went and did a deep dive on it and discovered that the doctor who actually first put his finger on that concept without that label, was a Black guy in the South in the 1800s. And it wasn't until like 40 or 50 years later, a white doctor in Germany coined the term epigenetic. Part of the reason that he wasn't able to continue with his work, aside, and I'm not diminishing this, but aside from the fact that he was a Black man in the South in the 1800s, okay? So he didn't have the level of support a white doctor would have. But the point that the author of the article that I read made was they didn't have the tests that were necessary to prove it in a double blind peer reviewed study. And that is a big part of what held him up, in addition to the race issue, which again, I'm not trying to mitigate, but he didn't have the tests. So it really did. He could have been a purple polka dotted whatever, and it wouldn't have mattered because he didn't have the ability to test his theory, and I think that's where we are with a lot of this stuff, and I also think I want to put out there that, if this is a piece that you want to explore in your journey, I am just caveat emptor, because this is a capitalistic society, and when people sniff money, very bad things can happen. And so you have a lot of people out there on social media who are claiming to be somatic healing trainers and somatic healing coaches. And, what is your training, ma'am?
So
Right?
things that you just said, right? I don't even know where to start, but yes. First of all, oh, I was gonna go down the TikTok therapist route, but we're gonna skip that. No comment there. I want to go back to what you said about functional freeze. I've never heard that term, but I just know it's layered, and I need to hear what that
It's
looks like.
layered. Okay. So, right. I mean, and there's actually a fifth one that is starting to be recognized in the survival cadre, but four that are typically used are flight, fight, freeze, and fawn.
Hmm.
Okay. And the other thing about that, which is really interesting, is sometimes people think that all fight means is that put up your dukes. That's not the case.
No, that's not what it means.
Unsolicited anger or unwarranted anger, anger that occurs at a level beyond what is warranted for the situation. Those are both indications you're in fight. Flight is not just running away. Flight is spending 3 hours looking at TikTok therapists trying to find an answer for all your problems. Okay. That's flight. You're dissociating. You're looking for a way out. Fawning being, I will do whatever I need to do for you so that I feel safe. Some people put people pleasing as a term on that. And I never realized that. I don't like that because it doesn't portray the veracity of that action.
How deep it goes.
How deep exactly. It just doesn't.
No,
It's like, oh, let me get you this. Let me get you a blanket. Can I make you a cup of it is so far beyond that.
it is completely
So
forgetting who you are to
exactly right.
feel.
Your identity gets absorbed into the other person's because in your mind, your entire existence depends on that other person being good.
Yes.
Freeze, obviously, is everybody pictures the deer in the headlights.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
But functional freeze, it's like functional alcoholism because I've known functional alcoholics, you know, and you're able to get through your day, but you're exhausted all the time, no matter how much sleep you get. I'll joke, too much peopling. I did too much peopling today. need I need my bubble, you know? The other thing that and I'm gonna put a pin in that for a second, I'll come back to it. But the other thing that has really come into my circle of awareness over the last couple of years is recognizing my own neurodivergence and understanding that science doesn't have the answers right now because brain scans on people who've had developmental trauma resemble people who have ADHD and autism,
Yes.
right? So it's the chicken or the egg. So was I born this way and the trauma exacerbated it? Was I born with a neurotypical brain and the trauma created this? Like, I've gotten to a point where it's like, I don't need to know the answer. I just need to be honest with myself about what challenges I have, what works, what doesn't work, and be vulnerable enough to ask for help when I feel I need it.
I think that goes back to what you mentioned about the animals. They don't have that, frontal cortex that's going crazy of let me
Yep.
understand where it's coming from. You're coming to the point in your life where you're saying it's exhausting to try to understand what came first, but let
Right.
me figure out what tools I can accumulate to make
Right.
this the best situation
Right.
with
And that's taken me a long time, if I'm honest. You know, first of all, this is all relatively new to me within the last 5 years.
wow.
So all of the things that I thought were quirks, they were symptoms.
I'm
You
just
know,
different,
I'm just different. I'm quirky. Like when I worked a corporate job, I would always bring a lamp into the office because I hated overhead light. My mother calls me the mole. Well, that's an ADHD thing.
Mm,
you know? And again, it's about labels, right? Because we're so label happy in this society. And this goes back to the prefrontal cortex crap because we have to put it in a box, we have to understand it. And sometimes things are just not understandable. I will never know whether I was born this way or whether this is the result of things that I experienced in a developmental stage of my life. I will never know the answer to that. So trying to find that out like you said, is exhausting and it will never lead to anything positive.
and we will never truly know. You know what I mean? And maybe in the future, as technology
Right.
advances, we can run some studies. But again, like we will never know 100% because we'll never be able to measure trauma in that way. However,
Right.
you have come to such a great point of we don't have to label everything and we don't have to put everything in a box. We can just be who we are and try to figure out how we can, again, make the best of the situation.
I totally agree with that. Getting to that place is a process. And
100%.
I don't think that that can be emphasized enough
Mm.
because even now it comes down to I recognize, oh, I'm trying to label that. Do I want to do that? And then, and I give myself permission. You want to do that? That's fine. Because maybe that's what I need in that moment to feel safe.
Yes.
And my safety is my very first priority because nothing happens for me without that.
Right.
I mean, I look back at my life and I'm like, I don't know how I wrote 7 books, worked in advertising in Manhattan for 15 years, managing like $12 million worth of accounts as a salesperson and a media buyer. I don't know how I did what I did. I don't know how I did it. And actually, I can tell you, I just pushed through like a bull in a china shop.
Yeah, Miss Survival Mode. Yes.
Right, right. And if I'm going to be full disclosure, I've only gotten to a new level of realization that I've lived my whole life in survival mode in the last couple of weeks because understanding is a spiral, it's not linear. And we're very linearly oriented in our culture, right? It needs to be from step 1 to step 2 to step 3 to step 4. And that is not how healing works at all, in my experience.
Wow.
It's a spiral, you know? And I'm a very visual person as a writer. And so I envision my subconscious as a castle with a moat and a gargoyle guarding the gate.
Interesting.
And sometimes the gargoyle is like, she can't handle that right now. Drawbridge up. It's not getting out. And when it feels that I can handle it, that I am emotionally, mentally, psychologically, physically strong enough to deal with something, it's like, all right, we'll let the bridge down and let that info into her consciousness.
Yes. Yep.
And that's the spiral, because I couldn't have had this understanding, because it's been very painful. I'm not going to lie.
Yes.
It's been excruciating. Right. Because I'm now having an identity crisis, if I'm being honest, because that's the only me I've ever known. So how do I be this new me that I've been creating for the last 5 years? And it's funny because I just wrote in my journal this morning, I thought I was in the hallway before. I am really in the hallway right now.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. Everything that you're saying, I'm just, it's so amazing. Healing is far from linear. And I believe that this sense of control that we all desire makes us want to, again, put things, in boxes and label and number and have a structure. But truly, like you said, our brain will only allow us to go as far as what we can take, so we can have that sense of safety and security. And so we almost have to build up our muscles and build up our strength before we can take on that next level of healing. But with going that next step deeper brings in more challenges. And it is
Absolutely. And this is why people don't do it. And I get it.
I understand why you're not coming to therapy, guys, but we really want you to. It is not easy. And it is so hard to face those gargoyles that you have in your subconscious. You have to.
It really is, because, especially as females, I think the underlying belief is, if I allow myself to be angry, I'm never going to stop. Right? Because you're younger than I am, obviously. So, it hasn't been quite as bad for your generation, but like people my age, people, true, because I'm like on the cusp between boomers and Gen Xers. Technically, I'm a boomer, but I've always lived my life as a Gen Xer. But like people my mom's age, in their 80s, people even in their 40s. And even today, women are still paid 85% or whatever the number is of what men make. The term mansplaining only came into existence in the last few years. Shit's been going on for hundreds of years. Just because we put a label on it recently doesn't mean it's new. So, I have horror stories from being the only female on an all male sales team in the 90s in Manhattan. Let me tell you, some of the things I had to put up with and endure just so that I could have my job.
You can feel the female rage through the.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it's not, but see, the thing is I know now it's not going to kill me. I know now that I have the power to alchemize it if I allow myself to feel it. It's the pushing it away that is harmful.
And it stores in our body. And I think that's what we were talking about earlier. When we don't deal with things, they're gonna start spilling out in other ways. So talk a little bit about how that stored trauma, that stored anger, it starts to spill over.
Oh, it definitely starts to spill over, because it'll leak out eventually, and chances are it's going to be sideways when it happens. It's going to be at someone that you care about, because you're going to know unconsciously that you're safe with that person, and it's going to take like murder for them to abandon you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So you're not going to save the worst of it for the cashier at the 7-Eleven.
Nope.
It's going to be your parent or your sibling or your best friend or your spouse. It's going to be someone you feel safe with.
Yes.
And so I think that's a really important thing to point out, because that's what's going to happen. And you can prevent yourself from hurting somebody you love by doing the work.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Because eventually it's going to come out. And like I said, chances are it's not going to be on a stranger.
No. And guys, this is why, like, little kids, they're always throwing tantrums with their mom or not their dad or whatever the primary caregiver is. And again, your partner is being kind to everyone else, but when they come home, you're getting the load of it. It's because you are their safe person, and they know subconsciously it's okay for them to do that. But that's not healthy, and that's not helpful.
And it sucks as the recipient.
Yes.
you know? So it's not. And so, as always, I say all the time, the mirror is forever, only and always your best friend, period. It always comes back to you. And if you're not willing to do the work, I would be willing to bet my life you're going to end up hurting someone who really matters to you. So it's important to do that. And here's the thing, the good thing about the gargoyle is that it is not going to let things out that you can't handle. Because I remember talking to a therapist years ago, and a friend of mine had a very traumatic childhood experience, and had shared it with me. And like a year later, something came up, and he completely denied it ever happened. And I was like, so I talked to my therapist about it. I'm like, should I say anything? I don't want to tip him over the edge. And she said, you don't have that power. If he has put that back in the lockbox, you don't have the power to open that up for him. Only he can do that when he's ready.
Yeah.
And I never forgot that, because it's up to us internally to decide whether or not we are strong enough, resilient enough, whatever enough to deal with a particular thing.
Yes.
Whether it's a memory or an experience or whatever it might be. I think it's really important to remember that you're never going to be, I wouldn't do it alone. Let me be clear about that. I would have somebody, whether it's a therapist or a coach, preferably a mental health professional, who can do the journey with you. But if you're with somebody and you're willing to be honest and trust that person, it'll never be more than you can handle. It may feel like it, and it's going to probably, but it won't be.
I love the metaphor of you can either run from the storm and it's always going to chase you, or you can run through it. It's going to be really bad, but you can get on the other side.
Yep.
And I love what you said about don't do it alone. We are not made to do this alone. We have professionals here to help, as well as your community and the people who love you. And so, this healing journey that we're talking about, it's hard for all of us, even your therapists, even your mentors. But we have been there and we have walked through the storm. And so, it's going to be challenging, but it's worth it.
It is, because if I wouldn't have really begun this journey, and the nervous system regulation thing being a key piece of it, it saved my relationship with my mom.
Wow.
She even has a nervous system regulation practice at 84.
Queen.
So Queen is right. So you are never too old. It's never too late.
It's never too late.
The only thing I will caution is, and you may disagree with this, and that's fine. I take issue with people who say you can be healed. I don't know that that's ever possible, particularly if you're somebody like me who was dealing with it for so long, but it can always be better.
What I like to say is like there's no end point. Like it's not like, there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. That's not really what we're working towards. There's never
Right.
going to be a day, a moment where we're going to sit there and say, man, I'm fixed. I'm good. We never will be. We're human. We're imperfect. And so, no, it's a healing journey and it's always going to be a journey.
Right.
Only get better, but like you said, it's not linear either. So it's one step forward, two steps back. We're always changing as people. Our environment is going to be changing. And so, no, there's no perfect day. And that takes the pressure off of people who are trying to get there. And don't get me wrong, I've tried to get there too. And then, a couple smacks in the face later, and it's like, wait, I'm only ever going to be human.
Right. And like I said, it can always be better. Nothing's perfect. And I think those of us, being an oldest child, that's part of my hybrid of my makeup, the trauma, the perfectionism. Most people don't want to admit it, but the biggest problem we have in this world is addiction to victimhood, and they think that because I have a nice house and I'm making X thousands of dollars a year and I drive a pretty new car and I have a family, I'm not a victim. I bet you I can prove you wrong. I bet you there are things you are doing in your life. There are things that you are accepting, from feeling singled out when the waiter screws up your order you know, to realizing that they forgot to put something in your bag at the grocery store, that you still have a toe in the victimhood. And again, nervous system regulation helps you be more aware of that. Because when you have a practice of some kind that you do, and it can be so many different things, because so many different things stimulate the vagus nerve, which runs from the bottom of your skull to the base of your spine. It's the longest cranial nerve in the body, and it affects every single autonomic function in your body, from your breathing to your digestion, how things move through your intestines, your heartbeat, everything. So when you are in vagal shutdown, all of your internal organs are too. Like I mean, it's like throwing a pebble in a pond, and the ripples just keep rippling.
Mm.
And there are ways to stimulate it that are really important. And the more you are able to be within a healthy place with your vagus nerve and that window of tolerance we were talking about earlier, the more easily you'll be aware of when you've dipped your toe back into the victimhood.
Yes. So good. 100%. That's honestly what I work on with a lot of my clients in therapy, is being able to get to the place where you can feel that shift. You can pause and identify, ooh, I'm angry. I'm triggered. I'm my heart rate is changing. I'm starting to sweat. I'm starting to get hot. If we can just kind of tap in to a place where we can allow ourselves to feel the shift, we can catch it.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Because we don't want it to take us and drive the car and drive who knows where. We want to still be there,
Right.
present. And so, talk a little bit about what those kind of cues are for you to be able to kind of catch yourself when you're not in that safe place and you're dipping your toe out.
If I find myself spending too much time on social media,
Wow.
I'm like, okay, is this how you want to spend your time? Permission granted, if it is. I'm big on permission granted, because that allows you to really make a choice instead of doing something mindlessly. And so I'm a huge proponent of giving myself permission to do things I don't think I should be doing, because it doesn't, then I'm not forcing, when we force ourselves to do things, it doesn't last. That is not a sustainable method for change. It just isn't. So if I'm on my phone scrolling on Instagram or TikTok, and my inner accountant, I call her, with the clipboard, keeping track of everything, she's like, well, you've already been on social media for 15 minutes now. You need to get off. The other part of me is like, that's not happening, right? But if I say permission granted, then I'm like, is this really what I want to be doing?
And then you get to choose.
And then I get to make a conscious choice. Everything's a choice, but it's not always conscious. Then I get to make a conscious choice. Yeah, you know what? I'm really enjoying what I'm learning on TikTok right now. I'm loving my cooking videos, and I would like to stay here a little longer. Okay. Or sometimes I say, I'm just going to feel a whole lot better if I go downstairs and get that laundry put in now. But again, it's a conscious choice about what's best for me at that time, not an inner parent. I forget what it would be in IFS. I forget whether it would be the manager, maybe, who's like, you need to do this, you need to do that, because I'm I'm a grown ass woman. I am quite capable of making my own decisions.
That's right.
But I have to own that in order to be able to do that. So too much time on social media is definitely a flag for me. Watching myself get angry at stupid little things. Something's going on. I drop something on the floor and it's like I'm catastrophizing. I've dropped a penny on the floor. That's a sign something's going on. I've had a tendency my whole life, and this is what led to the functional freeze, of just pushing through. So when I find, and I'm kind of like teetering in that place right now, I'm a caregiver for my mom, and I had planned to take the day off tomorrow. And the only doctor's appointment she can get to review a test that she just did is tomorrow. Sometimes it happens that way. In my early years of doing this, I would get furious, and I would fall back into victimhood. All I wanted was one damn day. I can't believe I just can't get one day to do what matters to me and what's important to me and blah, 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 blah. Now it's like, okay, I really want to be there for that doctor's appointment. I want to hear what's said. So, how can I take care of myself knowing I'm going to be going till Saturday and I'm already 6 days in? What can I do for me?
That reframe, that
Right,
flexibility, that
right,
openness.
right.
It's
Because I can't do it all.
no,
Sometimes it just is not possible. And this is one of those times. She's had issues with this for 6 months. It has been horrible for me to bear witness to the impact of it. And, that has put a strain on me that I don't want to share with her because I don't want her to feel bad about what she's dealing with. You know, it is what it is.
it is what
And,
it is. And sometimes you just have to remind yourself it's nobody's fault. It just is.
right. And that's victimhood, right? When you're looking for somebody to blame. It feels like it's easier to blame somebody. It's not, but it feels like it's turning the lid on the pressure cooker just a little. So some of what you're feeling inside gets alleviated by blaming somebody else. But it's really
Just ramping you up more.
it is because that pressure is going to keep building and keep building and keep building. So I mean, I'd be lying if I said I was happy about it, but she matters to me. And sometimes things like this happen, and that's just the way of the world. And so, what can I do in this moment?
Absolutely. And so the crock pot, the pressure, it's cooking, you're hot, you're heated, you're realizing these shifts. What can you do to regulate your nervous system in that moment?
Okay, well, there are a lot of things you can do.
Mhm.
I will, again, put a caveat out there the same way I did for people who are claiming to be somatic energy healers and stuff like that. Everybody comes to this with a different constitution. Some people will get on TikTok and see Russell Brand taking his ice baths to stimulate his vagus nerve and go, yeah, yeah, because we're an immediate gratification society. We get mad when McDonald's takes more than 3 minutes to give us a Big Mac, right? So it's important to remember that especially in life in general, but especially when you're dealing with trauma, that it is baby steps. Baby steps. You may want to take a giant leap. And what that's going to do is catapult you back further behind than where you were when you took that big step. So if you are new to this, if you had developmental trauma, if you have been diagnosed with PTSD or CPTSD, or I'll go as far as to say any of the personality disorders, I don't think that doing a cold plunge is the right thing for you because that is going to throw your vagus nerve into a place where it has never lived, and that is going to feel unsafe. So, where you are going to be countering through that behavior the very thing you say you want to accomplish. So, my best guidance in this is start small. There are tiny little things you can do. I actually have a nervous system regulation wiki on my website because I feel so strongly about this that I took the hours and hours that it took to put that together. There is nothing on there that I haven't personally used,
Wonderful.
from books to social media videos to YouTube videos. I encourage people to explore because what works for me may not work for you. It's important. I don't want to say you need, it's important to see if you can shift your perspective from I need this to be better to I'm curious about whether or not this will feel good. That is an enormous difference in how you ask that question. Because our culture says, find the answer, find the answer, find the answer. And so you blow through things without really taking the time to experiment with it.
If you're not curious and open to it, you're probably not going to like it.
I encourage people to be scientists. That's what I do. I'm going to try this. How long am I comfortable trying this for?
Mhm.
A week. I feel the resistance. Can I do 3 days? Okay. I'm going to try this for 3 days and then reevaluate,
Baby step.
and do it consciously. I'm going to try this particular neuro drill or practice or whatever for 3 days and let me see if I notice a difference. And if I don't, then maybe I negotiate with myself to do another 3 days, you know? But everything from a breathing practice, and again, I will put the warning out there, some of the really deep, intense breathing practices are not for you if you're a beginner at this, because it can stimulate your vagus nerve so much, it'll put it in a place it's not been, and then that's going to make you feel more unsafe. So start easy with something like inhaling 4 times, holding it for, or inhale for 7 seconds, hold for 8, exhale for 4. You know, there are simple little things like just actually rubbing your earlobe will stimulate your vagus nerve.
Mm.
There's a video in the NeuroDrill section on that wiki because you should test to see if something is for you. And the way to do that is before you do anything, turn your head to the right and you turn your head to the left and you take note of how far you can go. And then you do the drill and then you test again. And if your neck moves further, that's something that has worked for your vagus nerve. If it doesn't, it's not for you. Move on. Singing stimulates your vagus nerve. So if you love to sing in the shower, go for it. You know, I've recently begun, I studied kirtan, which is the Hindu chanting, when I first started taking yoga 100 years ago. And I've recently gotten back into it. And for me, the sign is I yawn. When my nervous system is calming, I yawn.
Mm.
That's my tell for that. And I do that when I'm doing the chanting. But there are all kinds of things that you can do. And I would just encourage people to explore. Look at it as if you're a scientist and you're going to see what makes you feel better.
Yeah. I love the idea of just kind of taking it with small bites and not going after too much. And
Right.
there's so many small things that we can do throughout our day, like singing, like dancing, any kind of body movement, breathing. We're not saying that you can't do cold plunges, guys. Cold plunges are awesome. We're just saying if you're triggered and you jump into an ice bath, you might feel a little overwhelmed if it's your first time. Now, if you have been doing these experiences before, that's a different story. Just going and trying things and being curious and open to allowing yourself to have peace. Because, and that we could probably have a whole nother podcast about what it's like to finally allow yourself to live a boring, peaceful life if you've been in the chaos and in the trenches.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's addicting and that's your normal.
And we go for what's familiar, not what's healthy.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and something else, if you're curious about a cold plunge and you've never done it before, take an ice pack and put it on the back of your neck. Do that for 5 minutes. Check in with yourself, see how that feels. You know, there are ways to step into things
Mm-hmm.
that don't require you jumping in with both feet and not knowing what the outcome is going to be.
Yeah, and another little, analogy I like is the pendulum swinging, right? And
Yep.
so one extreme and we want to be different, so we just jump to the other extreme.
Absolutely.
So far away from center, we're missing the mark. And sometimes it takes that pendulum to swing a few times before we can find center and hold.
Absolutely.
And so we are encouraging you guys to step into this journey, but just know, take it at your own pace and explore. Yeah. This has been
And we're not conditioned to do that.
Oh no.
We're conditioned to find the answer. And there is, and I forget, I don't know if it was Ram Dass or some pretty well-known guru was like, there is no there. There isn't. There's never going to be an answer. There's only going to be the next step. And that requires a huge shift in your belief system for most of us.
Yeah. It's a difficult step to take, but it's worth it.
Absolutely.
It's worth it. Well, this has been so wonderful. Stacey, can you tell us your website and maybe a couple of your books that you would encourage some of our listeners to check out?
Sure. The website is STACIB for StaceyB.com. It's NSR for Nervous System Regulation Wiki is one of the first couple tabs on the website. And I have a 10-minute self-care journal that's on Amazon that I've gotten a lot of good feedback about because one day I just realized I was just tired of journaling. I was tired of writing down all my crap. And the therapist I had at the time was like, well, can you just do a quick check-in with yourself? And that's what led to me developing this. And it can be done in 10 minutes. And I think we expect other people to give us what we need without asking ourselves if we're giving us what we need. And that's what it focuses on. So that's available on Amazon. Yeah, I've got a lot of really interesting things coming up. The 20th anniversary of my novel, Where Fat Girls Haven't Gone, is this year. So I'm planning some interesting things for that and just taking the next step as often as I can
Yeah.
with lots of naps, especially right now.
Oh my gosh. Amazing. You're amazing. This was awesome. It was such a great time, and I'm so glad I got the chance to talk with you.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right. Well, stay tuned, guys, for next time, and thank you for listening.
Thanks so much for spending some time with us here on A Safe Place to Land. Could you do me a favor really quick? Could you leave us a review wherever you are listening to this and subscribe so that you never have to miss an episode whenever we drop it? If at any point in time you're like, man, it would be so cool to work with the team at Sunshine City Counseling, you can always find us at sunshinecitycounseling.com. We serve the state of Florida, and we are located in the downtown community of St. Petersburg, Florida. If you are in or around the Portland, Maine area, you can find us at easternshorecounseling.co. We really believe that every single person is deserving of excellent mental health care. You are not a problem to be solved or fixed. You are a person to be served. We are here for you, so don't hesitate to reach out. Until next time, we'll see you guys later. Bye.